If
Mm-hmm.
someone's a hustler and they see you doing the same thing, they're like, okay, she's on it. So let me throw her a bone, or let me help her out because I've been there before. So I've been.
What is up, guys? I am your host, John Rios. Excited to have another episode of the Connected Podcast with John Rios. Super excited to have my guest today, Tina Rivera, aka the Stretch Boss. Tina, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining me for this conversation. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do.
Who am I? That's the big question.
So that's funny, right? That's funny, right? Because a lot of people don't understand that,
Yeah,
right? Like a lot of times you ask somebody that and the first thing they tell you is what they
they're
do.
perfect.
So that's why I ask both questions, like who are
Hmm.
you and what do you do? Because I used to always, oh, I'm a real estate broker. That's not who you are. So anyway, who are you? What do you do?
So I'm a mom. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a healer.
Okay. Mm.
What else? Who am I? I'm a daughter. I'm a friend. I'm a lot of those things.
Mm.
I'm a woman,
Okay.
obviously. Yeah, that's who I am in general. Do you want me to get into what I do?
I want to hear about what you do. I want to know about how you do it. What is it? What is it that? Let's start with that. Let's start with
Okay.
that, right? Because I think it's very important for people to know the difference, right, between what you do, what a massage therapist does. Because I laugh every single time I would see you put up posts like, don't DM me. Don't book a session if you're trying to get a rub down. I don't do rub downs. So, what exactly is it that you specialize in? What's your niche? What is it that you focus on? What do you
Okay,
do?
so my niche is recovery and injury specific. I do, and we can get into that later, but it encompasses a lot. I incorporate my 7 years of rehab experience. I incorporate a lot of the certifications that I've gotten throughout the years, and I kind of just put this protocol or this technique of my own of when I work with people. But I'm basically injury specific. That's why I tell people I'm not a massage therapist. If you want something that's going to feel good, or you just want to get a rub down, like a spa type thing, I'm not the girl for it. A lot of the times what I do is uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. So I hate to give people that misconception that they're going to come in and it's just going to be like a nice, relaxing, although the space is here is relaxing, but some of the work that I do isn't. And sometimes people get super emotional during the work. So it's a lot involved, but for the most part, it's injury specific.
Mm. And we're gonna get it. We're gonna get into that too, because that's something that I want to touch on
Hmm.
too. But nonetheless, how did you get into this practice? What drew you to this? Where take me back to pre-stretch boss. What got you to become interested in this and take you into this
Okay,
field?
so looking at things from hindsight, I've always been into health and wellness. I always did some type of training. Before I got into this business, at one point, my goal was to be a nutritionist, and I was going to Montclair State University at night for nutrition. But I got caught up in the car business, not selling
Mm.
cars. I worked in service. And I was making really good money, 401k, basically doing better than a lot of the people that were coming out of school or that were graduating. So I dropped out of night school and I just continued to pursue the car business. But that whole time, I was the weirdo girl that worked out every day with a gallon of water. Like I was just into the health and wellness. I was that person, bringing my pre meals um, to work. So everybody just knew me for that. And I got fired, but I say everything happens in divine timing because I was
Mm.
done. I was already tapped out. I knew I didn't want to do that anymore. I was doing it because it was putting food on my tables. It was a sense of stability for me. But I ended up getting let go. So when I got let go, I had a personal trainer certification and I didn't do anything with it because I was making good money. I didn't need a side hustle. I would train just for myself. And I was like, let me do something with this. Let me see if I can train people as a side hustle while I'm on currently on unemployment. So, and as everybody knows, if you ever been on unemployment, it doesn't pay enough. It's not paying. Barely, you could barely pay a cell phone bill with that thing.
Yeah.
So, a friend of mine owned a gym. I told him my situation. I said I want to do personal training. He said, "Okay, I'm gonna give you 3 clients, and then you're on your own. You gotta make a name for yourself in the gym." So when I started training people, I started to what came natural to me. I noticed other people didn't have body awareness. A lot of them couldn't do basic movements like lunging and picking up something off the floor, or squatting, or it was like a lot of back pain. So I started to do research, like how can I fix these people so I can actually get them to do the workout that I need them to do or that I had programmed for them. And someone saw me doing corrective exercises and some stretching on someone, and they were like, you're doing physical therapy, like you should consider going to school for rehab. And I was like, what is that? Because I've never been injured, so I didn't even know what physical therapy was at that time. And they were like, no, like we basically have the same equipment that the gym has. It's just you're going to learn more about the body. So I did my research. I went to unemployment. They were running a program at that time where they were paying people to go back to school. You would get like a 2-year extension, and
Oh.
you couldn't get a C or better. If you got anything less than a C, you either they stopped paying you or they didn't pay for that class. So I was blessed. I had this lady counselor. I wish I could remember her name, but she had like a 5-year plan for me. She was like, "This is what we're doing. We're gonna continue your unemployment. But your last year of school, you're going to have to figure it out because you can't work because I had to go on clinicals, which is like a full-time job. And you're not going
Mm.
to have any unemployment anymore. So you got to figure out like how can you borrow money from somebody or can somebody pay for your books or whatever. I say that to say I thought getting into PTA school was going to be easy. I didn't understand that it was a program that you had to test into. I just thought like, hey, I'm going to change my major to this. This is what I want to do. But it ended up being a whole, I had to fill out an application, take an exam. I get in. Still, nothing's registering with me. But the day I had to drop off my paperwork after being accepted, I came into the room. I saw all the tables. I saw the equipment. And it was just like a light bulb went off. And I was like,
Mm.
okay, this is what I was meant to do. And I was like, this is it. There's no looking back. There's no plan B. We're going to make this work. And I
Mm.
can't, it's hard to describe to people. It's like when you know, you know. And then when you're in it and you look back in hindsight, you're like, how did I not do this sooner? Why I
Mm.
should have, like, all the signs were there, but I'm here. But you know what? I say everything happens for a reason. Maybe mentally I wasn't ready because I really wasn't about school. I thought
Mm.
college was a scam. And I was like, I still think it is.
You and me both. You and me
Yeah.
both.
So, at that time, it was like, so my mentor was different because it was like, oh, you telling me in order for me to do this, I need a piece of paper and I have to do this to get that. Okay, I'm going to do it. So I had an intention. I think if I didn't have an intention, it would have been like, I'm not doing this. I'm done with this, like whatever. But because I knew at the end what I wanted to do, and it just felt right. Like, so fast forward, I graduated. I was super excited. I was like, I can't believe they're gonna pay me to do this. Like, I get paid to do this for
Mm.
like just to do this. Um, and as I grew in my career, just my love of it just kept growing, growing, and then I started to build my own protocol. Um, I worked for somebody for 4 or 5 years, and looking behind the scenes with insurance and how people were getting treated, how people weren't getting the treatment that they're supposed to be getting that they teach you to do in school. That kind of turned me off from the rehab world. So then, when I felt like I built my clientele and I had enough people and I felt like the time was right, then I just branched off on my own and I wanted to do things on my terms. I wanted to do the one-on-one. I wanted to make it a safe space for people. I didn't want it to be cold like a doctor's office where you feel like you're just getting pushed out. You're the next person, you're waiting. Like, I didn't want that vibe. because I felt like that also has a lot to do with people's healing. It has a lot to do with people's, you know, the way their nervous system works, especially when they're coming in with a stressful situation. So I was like, okay, these are the things that I'm going to do different. I know I don't like this,
Mm.
so how am I going to change it? And that's what I did with this space.
So, something you said there that I wanted to transition into was you said you got licensed or you got your certificate or your degree and you started working for somebody and you saw like the behind the scenes and so on, and you obviously made a transition at some point into working on your own, which, by the way, congratulations on the
Thank
milestone.
you.
That is a huge, 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 huge accomplishment. There's so many entrepreneurs that don't even get to make it through that first year and not just make it, but thrive in the way that you have. So,
Thank you.
congratulations on that. But what was that like? Because I remember when I first met you, you weren't working on your own. I remember you were working at a
Hmm.
facility. So what was that like? What was that like saying like, all right, I'm gonna go do this on my own, like finding the place, all of that. Like what was that for you
So,
like?
um, I procrastinated a while, like for a while. Like, should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do this? Um, God, the universe, I think a lot of the times has a way of making me uncomfortable, like pushing me,
Mm,
like, okay, you holding off on this. I'm gonna make you so uncomfortable that you're not gonna have a choice but to do
yeah.
what you need to do. So I think that's what happened with me. I started, I was still working for someone, but still working out of my house, and converted that during COVID. And I started to get really busy. And then I just started to notice like the time, like I'm here, but I could be here doing this. I could be working on my own business. Like, oh, you know, and then when I went into the office, it wasn't the same. I was just like over it. And then just seeing how the place was being ran just behind the scenes as far as the care for people. And I was just like, I'm over this. Like, I don't, this is not in line of how I want to treat patients or how I want to treat my clients. So one day I walked in there and I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. Walked in and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I was, you know, because I was working 10-hour days. I would leave there at 7 o'clock and then have to run home and work on a client at 9 o'clock at night or something. But I could have took that client during the day while I was working for them. So I was just like, and
Hmm.
my mind started to like process that. Um, it was scary because you wonder like if you're gonna, you know, you obviously you hope for the best. But I think if you have enough self confidence in your skills, that it'll see it through. And I was fortunate enough, I had like a lot of people to back me, a lot of people who were like, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, you know, people encouraging me. Because it is a scary leap to take, especially when you're looking for stability. You have a kid, you have a family you're taking care of. Those are things that you worry about. Um, but, you know, I had people around me who were like, no, I think you could do this. And for me, failure wasn't an option. I was like, I'm going to make this work. Like, it has to work. There's nothing
Hmm.
else that, you know, I'm not going to accept anything less than.
Hmm.
But the transition was not an easy one, but it was in a sense at the moment when I was like, I'm done, I'm done. I just walked in and I was like, I'm done. I'm going to resign. I'm giving you guys 2 weeks. I'm just going to do what I need to do to figure out my business. But I think at the time, my coworkers knew that. My employer kind of knew that. And so they didn't even give me a hard time. They were just like, we're surprised you lasted this long, you know, when came back to work. So I would have to say it was uncomfortable, but it was a blessing. Like it was, you know, those things build you and they make character and they build who you are. So, I mean, I do good being in uncomfortable spaces. So, you know, it was just like once I know that I'm locked in, I mean, I don't let anything else kind of interfere with that. I don't let the outside noise get to me.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I think that you know we're in a time right now where I think being an entrepreneur is over glamorized, to be
Yes.
honest. I think that it's put a stigma on people who work 9 to 5s, where it's like they're working, you know what I mean? Like, and that's their space. We need those type of people, just like we need entrepreneurs. And whatever it is that you do, take pride in it and do what you do. But I think that that's the missing component that a lot of the general public don't know, right? It's so over glamorized, like, oh, we get to work for ourselves and make our own schedules and so on. But there's a laundry list of all of the other shit that people don't talk about as entrepreneurs, right? Like, shit, like,
24/7, you on the clock.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like the economy's getting crazy. Like, what is, what's going to happen in my business? And those are things that people don't really take into account. And one thing that you mentioned and that I wanted to talk about was how you came up with um, the idea for designing the space the way you did. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, um, I've done a lot of spiritual work, a lot, and that became something very important to me. Period. Like my home environment, the places that I would hang out, places that I would frequent, like even certain gyms I didn't want to work out in anymore because of the energy in the space. Like just being very aware and conscious of that. And in addition to that, I have had I've worked with many people that are in the same space as you. I don't want to say they do what you do, but they're
yeah.
in the same space as you. And it's been like lay down on this cold ass table. In some places it's like in an active gym. There's dudes slamming weights and like it's very unsettling. And I remember the first time I came into your new space, because I had seen you in the house, but when I came into your new space, I was like, oh shit, like this is a whole vibe in here. Like I wanted to take a nap in there. Like and from a spiritual perspective, it really helps you to relax, because I think that what you do very well is that you understand that many of these things that we're dealing with, right, physically, come from emotions sometime. And, not many people are aware of that. They come in and they think, oh, it's a physical injury. And then you start pushing on them and they start crying their eyes out. And that vulnerability comes from the space that you created. So, how did you come to that idea? Like, where was the inspiration from? Like, tell me
So
about
the
that.
inspiration just came from my journey. And then I mean, I'm licensed for PT, but I would have to say, even though I'm licensed by the state of New Jersey, the certification that changed my life was the stretching one. So it's FST. And the only reason why I
Mm-hmm.
say that was because it was a 7-day course. But throughout the 7 days, they even talked about emotional releases. And it wasn't even
Mm.
like a matter of like if it happens, it was a matter of when it happens. And to know how to treat that person on your table if they're crying uncontrollably or if they're laughing uncontrollably and they don't even know why these things are happening and you're working on them and you might have release something somewhere, some trapped trauma. And it was like, how do you deal with that? Ask the client, do they want to continue? Because some people will just cry and still continue the session. Some people might need a minute to themselves because they're trying to process what's happening because they came in for one thing and didn't even know that the 20 minutes later they're going to be crying hysterical on the table. So, um, when I started earlier on and I was doing the stretch sessions, like I had a couple of experiences where I'm stretching people and then they get done and then uncontrollably crying. Like they don't even know why. Like I don't even know what's happening here. I don't know why I feel the way that I feel. And I was like, wow, like you really have to handle people with kids gloves because people don't know what they're bottling inside. And yes, you might come to me for a physical but it might be something that's emotional, that's manifesting in a physical way. And so, just coming from the medical field, but a lot of the times it's not personal. And so it's like you're not even giving this person room enough to feel comfortable to tell you actually what's going on with them. Because, yeah, they could have back pain, but if you sit down and talk to a person, maybe they had a divorce, maybe something traumatic happened in their life, someone passed away, and then the two are correlated. So you have to handle that accordingly. Um, so in my journey was, I did a lot of self work, positive affirmations, meditating, and just I knew what I liked and what made me feel comfortable. And so I just wanted people to come into the space and feel the same. And if you need to cry on the table for an hour, you can cry on the table because there's nobody else in this room but you and I. But a lot of the
Hmm.
times you go into spaces, like you said, it's cold, you're on the table, and that's cool, like for the people who just an athlete. They want to get in, they want to get out. They're not looking to do anything spiritual or emotional. They're just there to get in and out. And that's another thing with the work that I do. Like, you have to know who to put the energy into and who not to. So, like, if I have a kid in
Mm.
high school who he's just getting stretched out. He doesn't care
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
spirit. I'm not gonna do anything crazy, but you know,
You can stretch him out in the locker
and
room.
he's
He's
good,
good.
right? So, like,
Yeah.
he doesn't have any idea why the things are set up in my space the way they are. He just wants to he probably just came straight out of the gym, sweaty, wants me to stretch him, and then we move on to the next. So you just have to know who and when to do those things. But I just always, it was very important to make the space as comfortable as possible, warm, welcoming, where you feel like you can talk to me about anything. You can tell me about something, or if you need to cry, you could do that too. You're not going to be judged, because all that does have an effect on how your body reacts to certain things, how you're going to react to the session. If you're not feeling comfortable with me and I'm putting my hands on you, it's not going to go well. So
Mm.
it's going to be a tug of war, more of us fighting than more of like a dance. We're exchanging
Yeah.
energy, we're feeling like certain things. So that was important for me to wait to have this space. And that was my number one thing. Like, I want an anti-doctor's office. Like, I don't want you to go in there. And it's hard because you have people who don't know the space yet and they're so used to that environment. So, like, they'll come and they'll be like three people wanting to sit in the waiting room, or they'll come extra early and they'll be like, oh, I can wait. I'm like, no, you're gonna have to wait in your car. I got somebody on my table. You know what I mean? So then
Hmm.
I have to, like, and then when they come in, then they see it. But they're so programmed to how, oh, well, I'll just wait in the waiting room. I don't want you waiting in the waiting room. This person needs to cry and you're sitting there
Yeah.
like, no. you know?
Yeah.
Um, so that was important to me. I wanted people to feel like they had a safe environment to do whatever it is that they needed to do on my table.
No, and you nailed it. You nailed it because you know, I'm all about vulnerability and transparency, and there were many times that I personally had came to see you, and yes, I had a physical thing going on, but I would realize it afterwards because of my consciousness, my awareness. There was sometimes that I would sit in your parking lot before I even started driving home, and it was like almost like a reset. Like I'm decompressing. Like, well, shit, I just went through some shit because Tina's strong as hell and that shit hurt. But physically, I mean, spiritually, I also released something, and I started to be very aware of that you did something very different in the space, but also in what you were doing. Your modalities were very different than just like, let me rub this knot out and send you on your way. So that's
I
dope.
remember when you messaged me and I was like, so you came in and I felt like in the beginning you were a little bit of a skeptic, and you didn't, and then you went on your spiritual journey and you came back and I felt like you looked at the
Mhm.
space different because I felt it. So I was like, he knows why I have the things set up the way that I have. So I felt that. And then that day, I think it was that day, you texted me and you were like, do you know anybody that does like energy work or that does the same thing you do? And I said, me. It's just a matter of whether you're going to receive it or not. So it was like nothing changed. Everything was the same. You were just open to it.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
So
100%. I definitely had a completely, I mean, that's with
yeah.
everything. That's with everything. Like who I was prior to doing any spiritual work is night and day to who I am
Hmm.
now. Like I said, I start meditating. I got my plants. Like everything, has come full circle, so to speak. But that was why I wanted to bring you on because the purpose of me having this podcast, right? And the reason why I named it Connected was because I am so blessed and so aware of what God, the universe, source, Allah, whatever you want to call him, has done for me in a sense that he has constantly connected me with all of the resources that I've ever needed. I mean, in every sense of the way, spiritually, financially, emotionally, professionally, he has put those people in my life. And I know that a lot of people aren't privy to that or don't have those type of connections. So I really wanted to have a platform to highlight all of these dope ass people like yourself that I've been able to meet to show other people like, hey, this is who I know, this is who I go to for this. Almost like sharing my
Yeah.
network, like here, go see them. And what I wanted to ask you, because it's very important to me, is like, um, I'm a high school dropout. We don't even have to go into all that other stuff, but nonetheless, very successful at what I've done. And I know that it's because of the rooms that God has put me in and the places that He's put me and directed me and guided me to. So, in your experience as an entrepreneur, as stretch boss, and just doing what you're doing, where can you kind of like pinpoint or attribute, and it doesn't have to be one experience, but just give me one of like where you had a impactful connection with someone that either took your business somewhere else or it's like something along those lines where it was like somebody that you networked with that was like, okay, this is going to help me propel my business here.
I think I have a lot of those moments. I think in this, I say I didn't do it alone, and everything happens in divine order. So
Mm,
I've had like throughout my life, same thing like you. I've just been fortunate to have people. I have more people say yes to me than say no, if that makes sense.
mm,
So I have more people who are rooting for me, or maybe I just choose not to see the negative. But I've always felt like I've been in places where people see something in you and they're like, okay, we want to help her, or and people see you hustling and people see you grinding and they know that you're passionate. So I always say real recognizes real. People like if
mm,
someone's a hustler and they see you doing the same thing, they're like, oh, okay, she's on it. So let me throw her a bone, or let me help her out because I've been there before. So I've been in, and again, it's all about who you attract. I've been in a lot of situations. Um, when I was working for someone, my mentor, the doctor that I worked for, I started off as an aide. Like I was just like the girl who got the hot packs and stuff, and I worked all through part time while I was in PTA school. But I was fortunate enough that he would allow me to do things that I wasn't supposed to be doing. I was still learning it in school. He took me under his wing. He would be like, "What'd you learn in school today? All right, at lunchtime, you're gonna
mm,
practice on me." And that's how I gained the confidence to work on people because I was never scared. I think out of a lot of my classmates, you're always scared to touch somebody for the first time and you're doing things. But I have been doing it as part of my daily routine at work that when they put me in clinicals, I was like, you couldn't tell the difference between me or the doctor. Everybody thought that I had been working there already because I was just like in it. Um,
mm.
and he was the one who taught me about tuition. So in tuition, he would lay on the table and he'd be like, all right, um, I want you to just feel me out and let me know where you think I need to get mobilized or which one of my vertebrae is like out of alignment. And he also was a chiropractor, so he was a PT and a chiro. So that's how I learned how to do some adjustments and things like that. So I would just feel, and then I just right here, and he'd be like, "Okay." He was like, "You have intuition, and I can't teach that. No one can teach that to you." And you have good
Mm-hmm.
intuition. So that's when I knew. I was like, okay, I'm on to something. He was like, you knew where to go, and I didn't even have to tell you. So he was like, and that's something you just can't teach people. It's just something, it's an innate ability that they have to have on their own. So that was a situation that, it gave me a lot of confidence in what I was doing. Um, I just been blessed. Like, I could give you a line. So like starting my business. I didn't have
Yeah.
Instagram. Someone opened the Instagram account for me. I didn't give my name the stretch. I didn't give myself the name the stretch boss. Somebody else did that for me. So these are all other people who are like, "Hey, you're special. This is what we're doing." And I'm like, "Okay, like I'm still like not really, conscious or privy to what's like happening." That when you look back, I'm like, "Wow, like these things are really happening." So like I didn't even want to do social media. And they were like, you need an Instagram. All right. So then, and then they're like, what do you want your name to be? I don't know. Pick it. And so they picked it and they opened it. And then from there was like, hey, Tina, you might want to, I didn't know anything about like, linking up with other influencers at the time, like people who had like a bigger following. And so my coworker was like, T, you need to get with this guy. He has a huge following. He lives in Newark. That's NDO. So, and he was like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you get with him, you could, build up your social media so people could see what it is that you're doing. So I was like, all right. And as he's talking to me, I'm literally like DMing him, still not thinking anything of it. I was like, this guy's not going to get back to me. I got like 500 followers and he's like, whatever. 5 minutes, he messages me. Yeah, I want to come through. Lester, and then when he came with a cameraman, and he was like, "Oh, like, would you sponsor me? We'll post videos." And then that's how I got into posting videos. And then I think he was doing security for Jim Jones, and he was like, "I'm gonna tell Jimmy about you." And I'm like, "All right," because people say that all the time. So I was like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then, like 3 weeks later, my phone rings. It's Jim Jones on the other end. So it's just like, and same thing with Jimmy. Like, oh, he would refer people to me. So it's just like, but then I also think that has a lot to say with like your work ethic. Like people respect that, and if they see you really trying to do something, then the things kind of just like fall in line. But I have so many moments where people contributed to my success and pushed me, and even the place I resigned from. I mean, I was blessed that the doctor let me do my thing there on the side. He just didn't know how
Mm-hmm.
big I was going to get. So he kind of thought it was going to be a little side hustle and I would do one or two people a week. I was wearing that office out. So
Yeah, yeah.
like I had clients from Sunday because that was my day off from work, from like 7 a.m. in the morning to 11 o'clock at night in that office just working. And he didn't know how fast it was gonna grow, but I was still blessed that he was like, he didn't dim my light. You know what I mean? He When it came to me trying to be an equal and ask for like partnership or whatever, that was a different story, but I respect it. But as far as
Mm-hmm.
me growing and being able to do those things, yeah, I took full advantage of it. And those, I have to be grateful to those people because those people had a huge part in me growing my business. Even, Mel, our mutual friend, you know what I mean, and her networking. So it's just like, and it always happens organically. It's always people like ask me a question or how'd you get into, what's your goal? And then they'll be like, hey, I got this, or hey, and I'm like, oh, okay. It's never forced. I don't feel like any of my situations were like I was really forcing a network situation or my intentions were not pure. It always happened like organically for me. But I have tons of experience, and it's not me by myself.
And I'm so glad that you said that. I'm so glad that you said that because I coach many realtors in the business, and I tell them all the time, I'm like, it's relationships over everything. Relationships over everything. And they're like, oh, but I don't want to. And I'm like, then this might not be the business for
Mm,
you because the relationships are what built my business to what it is. And I'm so happy that you said that, because I think, again, we're in this time where this generation wants to be self-made and I got it out the mud, and it's like, nah, I had a whole bunch of people helping me get it out the mud. They were helping me push that truck out the mud. And not many people talk about that and bring that to the surface. But with what you said about working with NDO, working with Jim, you've worked with athletes and influencers and celebrities and things like that. How does that feel for you? Is it something that's any different than like when you first met your first person, star, whatever it may be? Like, how was that for you?
I was like, oh, they're just like me.
Yeah, yeah, right, right,
It was just
yeah,
like, oh, they're normal. So
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like, I think it was just that. It was just like, oh, this is a regular person. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think I was like starstruck. It was just more so like, oh, this person is like, and I think I have to thank Jimmy for that, because Jimmy's super norm. Like, he doesn't like, he's not extra. So like when I
Yeah.
met him, I was just like, oh, he's just like regular. Like, this is a regular person. So I don't think I had a moment where I was like, in awe. And then it's different because I'm providing a service. And a lot of the times people are in pain too. So you're meeting people at their most vulnerable. So you get to see a different
Mm,
side of them when they're
okay.
coming to you. So I love that. I mean, not that I want people to be super vulnerable, but it's just like you get to see their guard is down. They're just like, I just want to get out of pain, or I just want, and you get the vulnerability, that vulnerable side of them that they might not, other people might not have access to that, because it's very humbling when you're in pain and you can't do the things you thought you would be able to, that you used to do, or your daily activities. It humbles you, and then it just brings out a different side of you. So when they come to me, it's like, I just want to get better. I just want to, and so you get to see this different side of the person, I think.
Yeah, and I think that the way that you approach it is what makes it's what makes people feel that comfort, right? Because I tell people all the time that have no clue about real estate, and at this point I've already sold maybe 500 houses in my career, but I tell people all the time, it's like not one single deal that I've done has been the same as any other deal. And the part of that is because, honestly, like, my dealing with a client, maybe 20% of it is real estate based. The rest of it is, I'm a therapist, I'm a divorce counselor, I am a child tutor, like that's what it comes along with. There's been situations where I've walked in to meet a client that wants to sell their house, and it's a divorce situation, right? And you can feel the tension between the husband and the wife, and there's this dynamic of, oh, he wants to get his own realtor, she wants his, and me having to say, like, okay, I gotta take my business hat off now. This has nothing to do with business. I have to humanize myself for a second, understand what's happening here with the two of them, and say, okay, how can I help you? How can I help you? And I think that that's something that you do that's dope, because I wouldn't have come to see a PT or even a massage therapist and shared anything. I'd have just been like, yo, do what you got to do, and I'm out. But you create, you create that space of allowing people to be vulnerable, and I think that's dope. What would you say, especially now, right? Like, it's the perfect time because you just had your 1 year
Uh-huh.
anniversary. What would you say was your hardest time? What was your hardest situation during this transition, this year? What has been?
Are we getting personal or business?
We don't have to get personal I mean, listen, wherever you want to go with it, wherever you want to
um
go with it. If you business,
so
whatever.
I would say, business wise, the hardest, you're gonna have ups and downs, you know. And even though you people say it, and you know you're gonna have your, you know, a peak where you're doing very well, but then you're gonna have a peak or a moment, a little season where it's not as busy or slow. I think, but I think that comes with the territory. But when it happens, you know, you do get a little freaked out, and you're like, oh shit, what's happening? It's super slow. I have rent to pay, blah blah blah, and all those things start to, you know, play a big part. So I would say like that, business wise, that would probably be the thing, is like when those slow times come and you're just like, okay, you know, what do I need to do?
Mm.
Why is it slow? What's happening? What's it going to be like next month? And you start trying to prepare. Um, I would say that business wise, that would probably be it. Like the hardest thing,
Okay.
because I didn't really lose clients when I opened my space. Pretty much everybody came with me. I try to pick like location where everybody could have access to me. It wasn't hard. The drive wasn't too crazy. I mean, although you drive,
Except for
except for
me,
you.
but
Exactly, except for you. But I think that would have to be like business wise. That's it. And then I think, um, but business and personal do coincide. So I had a rough like couple of months of transitioning in my personal life. And so as a business
okay.
owner and entrepreneur, you got to know when to separate the two. You can't let your personal life affect your business. I
Hmm.
have to learn to put my stuff at the, you know, on the back burner, especially when people are coming to me with their stuff, you know. So I think that was the hardest part of trying to just keep it all together and trying to run the business. Know, let the person on the table know that I'm here for them. You know what I mean? Even though I might be going through something, you can't make that apparent to certain people or clients, because they're not coming here for
Hmm.
that. They come in for you to make them feel better, or they want to let their stuff out. So I think that probably was the toughest part of transitioning. Moving out on my own. You and I've had this discussion, which was like that was also a huge milestone for me this year. But what I can say to you is like, um, when you know. And when I made
Hmm.
that big transition, it was like all these blessings got unlocked. And
Mm.
I was just like, wow. Then you sit back and you're like, all this time, this has been blocking me from, because you think it's you. And you going back to
Yeah.
business, sometimes you feel like I should be here already. Why am I not getting this? Why haven't I done this? Why haven't this happened yet? And you start to think like, what's happening? Like I feel like I'm doing all the right things, but I'm stuck. I'm at a standstill, because there was a while where I was just like one arm away, like from getting a certain client or doing a certain thing, and it was just like I'm arm length but it's not in my hands. What's happening? Why does this keep happening? Why do I keep missing these moments? But when I made that transition, it was like, and I was like, okay, you
Mm.
know. So I was
Mm.
like, I got it.
Yeah.
So
That's dope because I think that we all have our different routines and practices, for grounding ourselves. Obviously, you more than anything because you're physically touching people, and this is why, like, my approach to coaching, especially because I don't just coach realtors, I coach business people, period. But that's one of the things that I always want to share is the stuff that we don't talk about, right? The stuff like you know, couple maybe last month, something like that. Like, I'm winning a Realtor of the Year award in my market, and
congratulations.
every, thank you. Everybody's congratulating me and thanking me and so on and so forth. And my lesson for that week didn't coincide with that because it's like y'all see this on the outside, but internally I'm dealing with shit. I'm going through things, and it's very difficult at times for us to balance the two, right? Like, we have to intertwine our personal life and our business life, and I know that you, because I follow you with your business stuff, but also I see with your personal
Hmm.
stuff, you you post affirmations, you post spiritual quotes and things like that. So what's a small piece of like your daily routine that Tina uses to recenter herself, ground herself, whether it be in between clients or before the day, after the day? What's that routine look like for you?
So my routine is normally in the morning. Because I
Mm-hmm.
get a lot, I meditate, but I also get a lot of my, like, I don't know, what is it, like the best thoughts in the morning, like my mind will start. So I'll write stuff down of things I want to do with the business and stuff like that. But I also do morning reflections. So I'll meditate and then I'll reflect on the day before. What could I have done better? I'll just play the day out in my head. Maybe something happened that I didn't like, or something good happened that I really liked. And then I either, take gratitude for that. You know, I saw X amount of clients, or I had a new client and the energy was good and the vibe was good. Grateful for this person even taking time out to like make an appointment. So I always like try to do gratitude and morning reflections. And that helps me out a lot because it's just like, okay, I did that yesterday. Maybe it didn't turn out well. How could I do it better today? And then it gives me a fresh start. Or I wanted to do this and I didn't get a chance to do it. So today, this is what I'm gonna do. Or just even conversations. I might have a conversation with a client or someone in my personal life, and I'm like, okay, I'll play the conversation. Maybe I should have said this, or I need to call this person and tell them this, and then I do it. But I always start off my morning with prayer, gratitude, and self reflection. Self reflections is like big for me because it makes me holds me accountable for certain things. So
That's the work right
yeah,
there.
so it's
That's the
like,
word.
what could I have done different? You know what I mean? And it just makes me accountable. And I really like it because sometimes it's like a light bulb moment. You'll think about it and you're like, oh, okay, I could have said this differently, or maybe next time I'll try this, or whatever. And I do it with my clients. Like if I know when someone's coming in and there's a specific area, like I'll mentally prepare myself, what it is that I'm doing. Throughout the day, I ground myself. You see me, I'm in my socks all the whole time.
Mm,
I take off my sneakers. It's like weird for me to work with my shoes now. It's just odd.
mm,
I tried it a couple of times because like I might have been like busy to take them, and I'm like something doesn't feel right, and then I have to like take my
yeah,
shoes off.
take these shoes
Yeah,
off.
I have to
Yeah.
take my shoes off. So, just those things. And then I always try to set intentions. What is the intention for this session? What is the intention for this person? What does this person need from me when they're coming in? Because everybody comes to me for different reasons. It could be a specific injury. It could be sometimes they want to get work done, but they're talking to me the whole time on the table. And
Mm.
we're having a conversation. Something's not going right in their personal life, like things like that. So I really enjoy that part of my job because it kind of encompasses everything, and you get to see people's perspectives. You get to see how people respond to certain things, how they may view certain things, even though our views might not be in line or whatever. But I always look at things with an open mind and just an open heart, and just like, okay, this is how they feel. All right. I might not agree with it all, but okay, you're entitled to your opinion, and that's how you feel about this situation. So I enjoy that too because I meet all walks of life, and that's like for me big because I'm an introvert. So this is like the only time
Right.
I really get with people.
Uh, Stop that introvert shit. Yeah. So Tina, listen. Because I've been there, and I'm not biased. I'm not biased. Like I'm serious. Like if you whack, you whack. Like that's just what it is. I'll still show you love, however I can. But when I find somebody that is dope at what they do, and that I have a connection with, I want to try to do everything I can to help them facilitate, grow their business, whatever I can to do to help that. So, because I've been there and I see, I haven't even used half of the shit
Yeah.
that you have. You got red lights, you got infrared, you got machines. Tell me about what you have over there, what services you offer, because I get it all the time. I got my own trainer, and Brian, I'm talking to you, bro. So watch this. I'm talking to you. Here's Tina.
Hi,
Go
Brian.
see her. Yeah, because he's like, your girl that stretches you out, whatever. So I'm like, listen, go see her. She's got everything. I can't tell you what she does. But what do you have? What services, modalities? Tell me about
So I
that.
have a little bit of everything. So I can also tell you when I made this space, I also the intention for not only for people to feel comfortable when they come in and feel safe, but also to help people heal from the inside out. Because I
Hmm.
people don't know on a physiological level like what's happening if you don't have healthy cells, if you don't have enough oxygen in your body, then you're breeding a ground that is not going to heal or recover fast from injury. So the goal with some of the pieces that I have here, like I have the oxygen tank here, I have two versions. I have one that has like scented, and you could just relax, and then I have another one. It's like a mask, and you breathe in clean oxygen, and you have to do an aerobic exercise for about 8 minutes. It looks intimidating, but literally it takes you about 6 to 8 minutes to breathe the whole bag of air in. And what that is just basically um, your cells need oxygen to thrive. So does your brain, and we don't get enough clean oxygen. And so now we're dumping and we're giving you an influx of all this clean oxygen, and we're giving you healthy cells. Um, so that's one of the things that I have here. And it's hard because people want immediate results. So they're always like doing it and like, so what am I going to feel? You're not going to feel anything. It's on a cellular level. You don't feel your cells doing their thing when you're sleeping or when you're walking
Exactly. Yeah.
around. So, but on a cellular level, yeah, you're providing your body with something that's going to perform optimally, and that's in essence that's what
Mhm.
you want when you come with recovery. So I have those things here. I have something called guided PEMF, so it's electrons plus, and it's electricity that runs through my fingers. And that's I have one that's area specific, so that's the one I can actually work on you with my hands, and you'll feel it coming through my fingertips. And that's for inflammation. If you had a fracture, it can help with bone growth, bruising, swelling. It's very good for people like post surgery, because I don't have to go like I can go very superficial, just light, but the electricity or the electrons, the frequency will help speed up the bruising and the swelling. So I
Mhm.
have that, but then I also have what they call a PMF mat. So if anybody's out there, then you have good PMF and you have bad PMF, right? So the bad PMF is what you get from your cell phones, your laptop, your TV, 5G, all those different things. And those things actually draw from your cells. So they pull, which is why they say men don't put your cell phone in your pocket next to your testicles, because you could get testicle cancer. Women don't put your cell phone in your sports bra because there's a correlation with breast cancer, because you putting your cell phone there, it's drawing. So if you have a cell that's like we're like batteries. So if your cells are not charged and they're down here, and the charge is down here, like you need to go put it, plug it in to get whatever full charge. You're gonna be more. Um, you're gonna have, what's the right word? More susceptible to getting diseases. Because
Mm.
cancer is a hypoxia thing. So cancer cells don't have enough oxygen in them. That's why they turn rogue. That's why they do what they do. So that's why we have oxygen. And then the cells itself, if it's a cell that's like not charged, you have the mat that will charge all your cells. And that mat actually protects you 24 to 48 hours from bad PMF. And then it keeps your
Okay.
cells at a nice charge and a level where they can perform optimally. And then the infrared lighting actually just helps produce ATP in the cell. So it helps with the anti-aging, collagen building, pain, because everybody likes heat. I can put it on your lower back, and that'll make it feel good. It'll help diffuse some of the tissue. Um, then I do cupping, obviously, scraping, stretching. I can do a full body stretch. I always tell everybody, if they don't know what to come into me for, just start with the full body stretch, because one, it's not going to hurt you, and then two, it's almost like an assessment for me. So when like after I get done, I'll be like, you're tight here. This is what needs to get done. So if you want to come back for another session, we'll cup this area. We'll do this. We'll do that, and then I'll kind of let them know what they need moving forward. I have I think everybody has them now, but like the compression boots, the Normatec boots, I have that. Um, I do ART. Some of the techniques I do ART. FST, which is fascial stretch therapy. I do stick mobility. I do cupping, scraping, all those good things. They're all here. But I always tell everybody, like, I have these things because no session is the same. No two are alike. And you never know what somebody's going to need when they get on your table. So what works for one person might not work for another. And I never want to be in a position where somebody gets on my table and I'm like, damn, I should have brought that, or I should have learned this technique because I felt like this person could have benefit from it. So those are some of the modalities that I have here, and some of the certificate. I have tons of certifications, but those are the ones that I use the most: the stretching, the cupping, the scraping, and I do some stick mobility on the side with some clients. And I also have an infrared sauna, a little one.
Dope, dope, dope. Well, Tina, thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for your time. Guys, please, please, Tina, where can they, first of all, let's start with that. Where can they find you? Where can they
Can
check you
you
out? How can they come see
Okay, so
you?
you can come see me in Livingston, New Jersey, 60 East Mount Pleasant Avenue. That is where my office is located. We have parking in the back, but I don't do walk-ins. You can call me. My business phone is 862-299-9471 if you have any questions or consultations. I do have a website, thestretchboss.com, so you can go on there as well. The appointment calendar is on there. I'm appointment only. So all the prices and availability are on the website if you have any questions. And that's it. On Instagram, The Stretch Boss. You can hit me up there. I have a TikTok, The Stretch Boss, and the same thing, YouTube.
Dope, dope. Well, listen, Tina, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you for the conversation. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Always.
Guys, check Tina out. Go follow her. Go schedule an appointment. Don't ask me no questions. She has all your
Yes.
answers. She will
I'll get back
respond.
to you. Yes.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Tina. I
As
appreciate
always,
it.
besos and blessings, everybody.